Minister, the opposition are calling on you, on the federal government, to drop the visa requirement for Ukrainians trying to get into Canada. But wouldn't that allow you to expedite the process and allow them to come in faster?
Look, let me start by saying the announcement this morning is historic in nature, and we're trying something new to respond to a crisis the likes of which we had never seen. You mentioned during the intro of your show that we've seen more than 1 million people in the past week flee Ukraine. When I actually became aware of the potential for an influx of people who'd be seeking safe haven in Canada, we started to look at the different options. My first reaction was whether we could stand up a refugee resettlement process, and that would have taken years to welcome large numbers. My second thought was to actually pursue the idea of visa-free travel. But when I dug in, I realized it was going to take some regulatory changes and changes to our IT systems across 3 different government departments and potentially with airlines as well. The advice I received was that this would take 12 to 14 weeks, and I made the determination that we did not have 12 to 14 weeks. So we're able to stand up a new process that will be able to expedite the screening and approval process in a matter of only 2 weeks, and at the same time have an interim process we've been implementing since January 19th to expedite any applications that are in our existing systems. This is the fastest and safest way to get people here, and that's why we made the decision to use this particular emergency travel authorization as opposed to a standard visa.
Minister, when you say 2 weeks, that means from the time the person in Ukraine, who is obviously a refugee somewhere in a neighboring country, most likely Poland, they have to wait 2 weeks before they can get on a plane to Canada. And how many people, so my question is it 2 weeks wait as of now, as of the moment they decide they want to come to Canada? And how many people do you think will be coming to Canada? Do you have any idea?
So let me answer your questions in reverse order. We're unsure of the demand because we don't know how many people will ultimately flee Ukraine, and we don't know how many of those people will be seeking some other solution elsewhere in Europe, for example. The reason that we've used the particular process, I should say one of the reasons we've used the particular process that we've chosen, is that it's based on the same system that we use to welcome tourists. We're accustomed to processing in excess of 2 million of these a year, and we can do it fairly quickly. We're able to do it faster as well because we've eliminated the barriers to entry that exist for a lot of people and are only having people fill out the form and complete the biometric screening process. Your other question on the timelines, I do want to point out that today people who are applying are getting to arrive in Canada in about a 2-week process since January 19th, because we went through our existing inventory and pulled out all of the applications that are tied to a Ukrainian national. Since January 1st, more than 6,100 Ukrainians have already arrived in Canada. We expect to see more. There's another 2-week interval that we're talking about that's going to take us from roughly today, the announcement this morning, until the new application system is online. But during that period, people who've already applied for a temporary visa are benefiting from the expedited processing that we've had in place since January 19th.
Are you working with private organizations, people who want to sponsor refugees? There are so many of them. We know we have a big Ukrainian Canadian community here. I'm sure you're getting, we are all hearing, myself and my colleagues of Ukrainian families here who are trying to expedite the process, who are trying to get people here. So are you working with private organizations? And what are you doing to help the people that are there waiting to come to Canada in the meantime?
So we are getting an outpouring of support at a scale that makes me incredibly proud to be Canadian. My mom said she'd take 6. People with nonprofit sectors are reaching out to us. Employers are reaching out to us. Provincial governments are stepping up, saying they want to do whatever they can to help. We're working right now to help organize the resettlement effort, the job opportunities that employers are reaching out to us, to ensure that provinces are preparing to offer services to people. These conversations are happening in real time, and we are getting a deluge of thousands of messages of people who just want to help. So we're working with a number of organizations, nonprofits, and different levels of government to try to arrange a system that will not just get people here quickly, but set them up for success when they arrive. And this will be something that we continue to work on in the weeks ahead as we expect to see the numbers continue to rise of Ukrainians who make it safely to Canada.
So you wouldn't be able to tell us, because these are people that are not fleeing their own regime, which is sometimes, the typical case of refugees. These are people fleeing a war from an invader. They may want to return. They may want to go back home when things quiet down, hopefully in the very near future. Would there be a process, or are you prepared for that?
That's actually one of the reasons that we chose the specific program design that we landed on. When I spoke to leaders in the Ukrainian Canadian community, they made very clear to us that some people may wish to come and stay and be reunited with family in Canada, and we've established a new permanent residency stream based on a family sponsorship model for those people who do wish to resettle here permanently. But the vast majority of people that are coming to Canada are fleeing a war that they believe is temporary. When they win the war, they want to go back with their family, many of whom are fighting on the front lines against the tyranny of Vladimir Putin, frankly, for the benefit of every single one of us. The reality is we were able to stand up this program so quickly because we have a program designed to do that for people who come here to visit or to work on a temporary basis or to study. We've repeated that model, but pulled off many of the barriers that exist that prevent people from being accepted into Canada for a temporary stay, and we've extended the duration of that stay and attached an open work permit to it. So we do have the ability to respond to that phenomenon that allows people to come here temporarily and return home when it's safe to do so.